Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corman Productions with my co-host Stacie, here to talk about Season 2, Episode 2, Kindness of Strangers. The episode description reads as follows. A tense night in the diner as the residents and newcomers wait for sunrise. Fear cremates the wreckage beneath the Matthews house as Jim and Tom struggle to keep a panicked bus passenger quiet. The episode was directed by Jack Bender. He also directed the season premiere and the first 4 episodes of Season 1. The episode was written by John Griffin and Jeff Pinker. They might actually be the writing duo for all the episodes so far. I haven't actually looked into that, but it's quite possible. I know that John Griffin has credit for writing on every single episode of this series so far. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a spoiler-free video, so if you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go check it out and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please follow, and feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corman Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and please subscribe to my channel. Alright, shoutouts this week to Backstage Tattoo, who commented that there are no seasons in this show, that the weather is temperature controlled. Stacie, is there any evidence for that in the show so far?
I don't think so. I think it's possible.
It's definitely a possibility.
That's a thing.
I don't
think we've lived in this world long enough to really have an opinion about that. Like, no time's really passed. You know, they've been there maybe a couple of weeks.
Right.
So I don't know. I think
it's definitely a possibility.
Learn more about that as we go.
Right.
Hopefully.
All right. He believed before the show aired that the man in chains was Victor that we saw in the last episode, and that Boyd went to the future when he went to the tree. This episode does not back up any of those claims, but it's still possible that time travel is an element of this show.
I'm questioning if he is time traveling or dimension hopping or something.
So you still think it's a possibility?
I think that, something's happening where
Right.
he was someplace and then the place was different.
Well, I had more to say about this later, but I definitely don't believe that what we were presented with, what we perceived, is actually what was going on in those scenes.
There's a lot we don't know, and there's a lot
Right.
of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And we're probably just as confused as the characters are.
Oh, I'm sure that's absolutely possible. Okay, he also mentioned that Elgin is the name of a clock and watch company. He said mid-century. You commented back saying that was the company in question went from 1864 to 1964.
Yes.
And both of those dates have been significant within the show.
Yeah. So we're looking at dates involved, within the the dates Tabitha saw in her dream in the tower. We've got the Civil War. So there could be some relation there. It's probably a coincidence.
Facebook poster, I didn't catch the name, mentioned that Elgin is also the name of a South Carolina town. I also discovered that it was a town in Scotland, as well as a sweeping company. I'm sure none of that has anything to do with why this character is named Elgin, but still, it was interesting when I looked into it.
Yeah, if we do get a time element and he's somehow involved in it, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
We'll see. Another shout out for Latrice. She's a new fan of ours, and in response to your comments about cell phones, she mentioned that the Matthews had cell phones in the series premiere. When they started having signal problems, that was an indication of a problem. I went back and looked, and sure enough, that is correct. I had mentioned in that episode that I remember that Julie had some kind of phone, and Ethan has a tablet that he was playing around with, and yes, they both had cell phones. The town people that are already there, no evidence of any kind of cell phones, but by this point,
right,
you can't charge them, so
they would have discarded them. But I wasn't unique in questioning that. I saw people throughout this week, while the fandom has been talking about episode 1, other people have questioned it. Why are we not seeing anyone on the bus pulling out a cell phone?
That's the biggest problem.
Right.
Like, the townspeople are already covered.
Right.
We did see the Matthews with cell phones. Nobody on the bus has a cell phone.
And a bus full of people who are now stranded and think they're being kidnapped. You think somebody would pull out a cell phone?
I'm kind of questioning. Okay, so the fiance, Christy's fiance, is definitely on that bus.
Yep.
There's no saying, though, that Christy herself couldn't be from an earlier time before cell phones.
Well, okay. The whole concept of when are we might as well talk about this now since we brought it up. So originally watching the first season, I had this thought, what is the time frame? Because, my favorite sci-fi is time travel. We cover shows like Quantum Leap.
Right.
We're looking for timey-wimey stuff to be happening. And I totally could see that fitting in this story. And even now with the bus, people commented, oh, everyone on the bus kind of looks like they're from the 90s, like with what they're wearing. And I want to believe that that's where this is going. But as far as I'm concerned, it's been debunked.
How so?
So, social media, last year when the show came out, Epix posted all of these missing posters.
Okay, you have brought this up
for
before.
all of our main cast, our season 1 main cast. And the missing posters say when these people were last seen. And the dates line up with the current timeline, for 2022 when the show started.
Now, presuming that this is promotional material.
It's promotional
so it's
material.
not technically canon.
So it's not canonized within the show, but it is the makers of the show presenting us with information.
Gotcha.
Now there is talk about that currently, like, oh, is that a misdirect? Is there some trickery going on here? Can we, is there, some code within those posters that's not as direct as here is these dates? But I feel like that was really them showing us, like, no, we're not dealing with time manipulation.
Right.
This is point blank what's going on. These people are missing now.
Mm-hmm.
And those dates start, with Donna was in late 2018 and going right up to the Matthews family, who disappeared the day, that the pilot aired in February 22.
Oh,
which means we should be in like March 22 right now because, like I said, not much time has advanced.
Right.
And, it lines up with, there was Sarah and Nathan were missing a few months, so their date was a couple months before that. Christy's been missing for 6 months. Her date was 6 months before that. So, like, that's, as far as I can see, we can take that for face value. They're saying that these people aren't from different times. We're living in current times.
Okay.
And, but yeah, the show itself continues to make you question it. So
right.
I do think there's a possibility that there's a twist there, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like they wouldn't have been so direct about here's the dates if that was the case.
Well, we shall see about that.
But it would make sense of why
right.
they don't have cell phones and why, they're just kind of vintagey looking. Although, the 90s are back right now in fashion. So.
Well, that's very true.
Yeah.
90s is basically my childhood, so I do appreciate that. Shoutouts also to Elizabeth Saunders, who plays Donna in this series, who liked a tweet about this podcast.
Yes.
And Elizabeth Moy, who plays Kenny's mom. Mrs. Lou, who retweeted our podcast.
She liked and retweeted my post about episode 1 podcast. So thank you, ladies, very, very much for taking the time to acknowledge us and share us out. I hope you listen to us. That would be awesome. If you do,
we are fans of both of you. We adore your characters. All right, so Stacie. Oh, actually, one more thing before I get into the episode itself.
Okay.
I do have to bring up the fact that the writers are officially on strike. That happened today at midnight, I believe.
Yeah.
That's when the current or the former deal went out. I know the big sticking point is streaming services and not getting money for that. So I don't think that's going to affect this show very much, at least not season 2. I think season 2 is pretty much in the can.
Season 2 is all done. I'm pretty sure they're even done with post-production at this point.
Yeah. But, it could affect a possible season 3. That could delay season 3.
It could delay production of season 3. I think it's more of a concern with our Quantum Leap discussions.
Yes.
I know that's something our Quantum Leap fandom has been watching trepidatiously as they are currently working on season 2.
I think they got at least 5 episodes done. That was last I heard.
Knew they were working on 6.
6?
And that was still a couple weeks ago. So you got to figure they got a first half of a season in the bag.
Yeah, more than likely.
And I think that was their plan, was to be able to at least delay, have the strike not delay production. Because, I think they would do the same thing where they film half a season, then they would take a hiatus anyways, take a break of filming, and then they'd film the second half. So hopefully it lines up. But yeah, the strike, there's no way of knowing how long. It might be over in a day. It might take months.
Yeah.
So, of course, we are rooting for the writers.
Oh, absolutely.
Getting what they deserve.
Corman Productions' official position is support of the writers.
Support the writers, and I hope that they can come to amicable terms swiftly, because the entire, television world depends on it.
I mean, media like that in general right now is already struggling.
Yeah.
Part of that is a lot of the, corona still affecting business. So it would really be in everybody's best interest for them to get a decent agreement on that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so we'll keep you posted on that. But anyway, meanwhile, Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode?
So, similar to what I said about episode 1, I feel like we didn't get a lot of advancement. Like, really, all we got was the night. Between both episodes, we've hardly advanced 12 hours at this point. And so it's like, okay, like, give us some more, right? But at the same time, I feel like we got so much. It's all in the little details, and there's tons of them, and I love it. And I love that we have the opportunity to kind of stew on the details a little bit.
It's a great episode. There's a lot of great scenes in this episode. It's very similar to episode 7 of last season. I don't remember.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay.
Not totally up there, but it's see, episode 7 for me from last season is actually the gold standard for this show.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this one is pretty close. I had some problems, but actually some of those problems went away when I rewatched it again. Specifically with the Tom and Jim and Brick scenes that I had some issues with. But when I watched them again, I didn't have the same kind of problems.
Okay, so we can talk about that when we get to those scenes.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people are complaining, that they want more answers and not more questions. And all I have to say to that is, this type of storytelling isn't for everybody.
Right.
But for those of us who kind of love something that goes deeper, this show's amazing. And we don't get that a lot. There's not a lot of shows where you get this really deep, detailed story where everything is important, everything you got to pay attention to, and if you blink, you might really miss something.
And this, I gotta say, is the quintessential Stacie series. This is absolutely the type of series that you love, generally speaking. Like, it's similar to Dark in that respect.
Right. Dark is probably, and that's Dark on Netflix. Check it out if you haven't. It's a German show. And it's probably the only thing in the last decade that I felt that way about. And I'm going to put it up there with Lost. And of course, this can be compared to Lost, the show. It's from the same creators. And a lot of people see that as a fault because there's a huge portion of people who were disappointed with Lost, particularly in the way it ended. And they felt that it didn't tie things up. And I will die on that horse up on that hill there that, listen, Lost is great. And if you think they didn't tie things up, you didn't understand it. You were not paying attention because they explained everything. They did. Maybe not quite as circularly as Dark. Dark's really, I don't think anybody that's watched Dark has complained that they didn't tie anything up.
Right.
Because Dark is amazing storytelling. Like, check that one out for sure.
Oh, speaking of which, the first episode, the series premiere of this series, like, it hits very differently when you watch it knowing what's going on. Like, the first couple of scenes especially, like, the story now.
Right.
So like, when you see it originally, you don't really know what's going on. But when you see it again, you definitely know what's going on, and it hits very differently. So I think this is a series that you should definitely go back and rewatch season 1 if you haven't already.
Yeah. And keep rewatching it.
Yeah.
I feel like after every hour of this series, there's a reason to go back and check something old, right? There's always something to be like, well, wait, let's look at that again.
Right. I mean, our conversation last week led me back to watching the series premiere again.
Yeah. And speaking of revisiting, I do have a few things I want to revisit on episode 1 before we dive into the details of episode 2.
Okay. By all means.
Okay. So my first point, in no particular order, I think, the entity that is angry as, what's our bicycle girl's name? I forgot her name already. Trudy?
No, Trudy was the one who died in season 1 because she stole.
Oh yeah, that was Trudy.
It's a D name.
Oh
Donna?
my goodness! No, not Donna. That's the leader.
right. No.
They give us a character's name finally, and I lose it already.
And we mentioned it a couple of times.
I got last week's notes here. It's not really. No, this isn't it. These aren't last week's notes. That's season 1 notes. Bicycle Girl. We finally got her name and I forgot it already. I do apologize. But remember she was saying, oh, I think we made it angry. And, you know, she was talking to Jade. I think that entity that's angry, the entity that made the storm come and made the house implode, you know, whatever force that is, I think it is the same as the voices talking to Sarah.
Okay.
And I think that that entity or whatever wants Ethan dead. And this is who told Sarah to kill Ethan. And I think that because, you know how the tower came and crashed through the window at Colony House?
Yes.
It hit exactly where Ethan was sitting on the couch.
Oh, okay.
And it was just a moment after Fatima took Ethan and it was like, okay, let's get you upstairs.
Right.
That's when that hit. If she didn't do that right at that second, that tower would have hit Ethan.
Oh, wow.
So upon rewatch, I feel like that was very directed and intentional, and I think that this is whatever wants Ethan dead.
Interesting.
And because Sarah failed to do it, I think it's now trying to do it a different way. So I think Ethan is in danger.
Yeah,
like,
more than likely.
In particular danger from this force that really wants him gone. For what reason, I'm still not sure.
Speaking of Sarah, we once again do not find out what's going on with her.
Still no direction on Sarah. I know she's coming back.
I mean, like, all right, so people complain about some characters not appearing in episodes. Like this episode, the people at County House that are there right now, which is Ethan and Kenny's mom, Mrs. Wu.
And Jade.
And Jade. They all don't appear in this episode.
Bicycle Girl.
Right, Bicycle Girl. And, like, this is a large cast of characters.
Yeah.
Like, way more than the typical show.
And now we have all these new characters.
Right. So, I mean, occasionally we're going to have episodes where characters do not appear.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was Jade's turn and Ethan's turn. And, next week we'll see him. And eventually, I have faith in these writers that eventually they're going to bring Sarah back. We're going to find out what's going on with her.
Right.
And it's going to be amazing. But still, it's kind of annoying at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you can only show so much in
right. And this
an hour of television, which is 40-something minutes.
Yeah, this episode had way more story than it could handle.
Yeah.
You don't need to add in more elements for this episode.
If we added another group of people, it would have definitely taken away. Like, already, it's arguably we saw too many things happening at once.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, you know, eventually when we get past this day, this never-ending day, and the people all kind of come together, we'll get to see everybody when they're not all isolated from each other in different houses. And
Jade's finally going to be able to talk to Victor because he seems to be back.
I can't wait because we need that conversation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing from episode 1, that suitcase. The suitcase that had what looked like the bridal outfit in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we had talked about before how there was a 1964 New York sticker on it. What I had failed to actually realize at that time is it was from the 1964 World's Fair.
Okay.
Which, you know, people have been talking about this sticker a lot during the past week. And I was so, you know, caught up in looking at that sticker and trying to get the date from it. I had totally missed by the time we had recorded episode 1 that across from that sticker on the other side of the handle was a Hawaiian sticker.
Interesting.
And that took note to me because I don't know if you've even noticed, I don't think we've talked about it. In town, there's a big billboard for a Hawaiian vacation.
No, I haven't noticed the billboard.
Okay, so I don't think that they've ever brought attention to it, but it's in the town, and when you're driving through the town, you see it. It's in the season 1 trailer where we just see the Matthews family continually coming down the road, and you can see it, a close-up of it there, and it's off, when they're driving into town, it's off on the right-hand side. And it's this, like, kind of broken down, super old-looking billboard. And it's got a Hawaiian, like, hula girl on it. And it's advertising to come to Hawaii for a vacation.
Interesting.
And it's very out of place in this town, right?
Right.
Like a lot of things are. And I found it very interesting that there's a very similar-looking Hawaiian sticker on this suitcase.
Interesting.
And so...
You think maybe that wherever she was was probably going to Hawaii?
Okay, so usually, like, these old trunks, you would collect these stickers. And there's a bunch of other stickers on the top that we don't really get a clear look at. But that's what you would do. You would put stickers of all the places that you've traveled with the luggage.
So this person has been to Seattle, specifically the World's Fair?
New York.
New York,
64's New York World Fair.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, they were at the New York World Fair. They were in Hawaii. It's the bride, I'm assuming, because it definitely looked like white, wedding attire. I saw people speculate that was the bridal nightgown that was in there, as opposed to the dress, which, the monster herself is wearing. Either way, I'm questioning if she went to Hawaii on her honeymoon.
Okay.
And maybe that's where she was when she got pulled into this town.
Right.
Given with the one theory that, these monsters are previous residents.
And that eventually the people that we are currently living with are going to eventually end up these monsters.
Which is just a theory.
Which is what we were talking about.
That I don't know if I just necessarily am fully committed to that. Like, there's so many theories, and I don't know which ones to follow, really.
Right.
But yeah, to keep that in mind, that I think that this has something to do with the bride, and she has some connection to Hawaii, and that has some connection to that billboard, and how this town got generated. Whether, were stuff brought into this town in addition to people.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. And talking about that suitcase also, a lot of people seem to speculate that Tabitha was particularly drawn to that suitcase, and they're trying to find some link to her.
Maybe it could be her mother or something like that?
See, I don't think I feel that way.
No.
I'm pretty sure the only reason she went to the suitcase is because it was the first item they came upon. It was just hanging out in the caves, and she was curious.
Right.
I'm pretty sure if I was walking through the caves, and at this point they haven't seen the monsters yet sleeping, I'd probably look at it. What's in there? Is this something we can use?
Maybe it's some money.
Well,
I mean, money you can't
money's probably not that helpful. But I'd be curious. Later on they see a lot more stuff. They start seeing the monsters. Of course, at that point, you're going to be less interested in exploring stuff. But I didn't feel like it was trying to tell us there was any personal draw between her and the suitcase. But that is something people have been talking about.
I didn't take it that way either.
Yeah, but I thought I'd mention it because that is something a lot of people are talking about. And I do apologize. We are so far into this and we haven't even started the episode yet.
I was just thinking that 20 minutes in, we haven't even talked about episode 2
That's okay.
Yet. Yeah, it's fine. The people who love this show and are listening to us will probably stick with us through this. So.
I have just one more thing.
Okay. So,
and this is actually something Adam brought up to me. My husband, for those of you who don't know that, who is watching this show. And this is a Lost thing. Now, Dave, you have not watched Lost.
Right.
Which is, I'm going to say that right off the bat and let our fans know that, because I feel like Lost is going to come up multiple times during discussions of this series. I actually have one more reference to it later on in my notes today. But, so it's things you wouldn't necessarily think to comment on, right? If we're comparing stuff to Lost. But this is particularly between Boyd's whole, if I had a boat mantra, and Abby buying him a boat, and he's holding these boat keys. So there's a boat theme, right?
Yeah.
And I hadn't made the connection until Adam brought this up to me that his character on Lost, who is Michael, Harold Perrineau, that is, his character Michael, there was a boat that was very important to his storyline.
Interesting.
And, spoilers about Lost. I'm not going to get too deep into Lost lore, but Michael kind of turned into an asshole. He abandoned everybody else by making a deal with this other group of people on the island. And in order to get him and his son Walt off of the island, because he's trying to save his son, he agrees to help these people, which involved killing somebody accidentally. He didn't mean to kill them, but somebody died because of what he had to do. And then they give him a boat, and he leaves on a boat. So the whole, if I had a boat of it, for Michael was, if he had a boat, he would screw everybody else over and get out of Dodge.
You think so?
I mean, that's what happened in Lost.
Okay, but you think this character would do the same?
I don't. And I think that this is maybe it's kind of more of a redemption for Harold Perrineau to be able to play this character.
Harold Perrineau gets to redeem himself and play not an asshole character.
Right.
Nice.
But particularly Adam caught the fact that, when Boyd was in the well and he sees that premonition of Ellis, and Ellis was standing at the bottom of the well being like, "Hey, Dad, I thought we were going to go out on the boat." That he particularly saw that as a nod to Michael's son, Walt, going out on the boat to leave the island.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which wasn't something I had made the connection to, but once he said it, I was like, wow, that's funny.
You think it's like a homage? And
it could be. It could be a nod. I don't think we're going to canonize anything from Lost being part of this world, but you never know.
That would be funny.
And I mentioned this before that it's just outside of canon that Lost is just a realm from Once Upon a Time.
Right. You have mentioned that before.
Once Upon a Time and Lost share a lot of stuff between their universes. Not exactly character crossovers, but like product brand crossovers. A band name is shared. Like, they make it pretty clear these are the same universe, because those were the same creators as well.
I didn't know that.
Did you
actually
watch Once Upon a Time?
I watched some episodes of that
Okay.
series. I didn't. My ex was big into
a
that
very
series.
different show, right?
Yeah.
It's Disney based.
Right.
But yeah, Once Upon a Time is about all these different realms.
Mm.
And you know, so it's kind of a fan theory that, oh well, the Lost Island is just another realm.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know that Jennifer Morrison was on that show.
She was.
Who was also in This Is Us. Who was also in House.
Yes.
So
I love Jennifer Morrison.
yes.
I
didn't like her in House, but I like her in everything else.
So, you know, maybe Fromville is a Once Upon a Time realm, you know, within these creators' shared multiverse.
Maybe it's gonna be proved to be like a sequel to that series eventually. Those series. Okay, that's some interesting theories.
So anyways, yeah. That's that.
That's that? That's all you have for episode 1?
So now we're like a half hour. Let's start our podcast about episode 2.
All right. So, we start this episode off with Boyd, where we left him off, pointing a gun at the man on the wall. Boyd wants to know where they are, while the man claims that they made a deal that Boyd said he would kill him. Actually, I don't think that's what the deal was at all.
No, the deal was, if you help me, I'll help you. He hadn't told him until he, you know, got out what he wanted help with.
So he didn't specifically say he would kill him. He said he would help him.
Right.
So.
But to this man, that's one and the same.
Right. He sees corpses of formerly tied up people.
Yeah.
And actually, they're still tied up. They're dead.
They're very dead. They're basically just skeletons at this point. And there's multiples of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's telling us that this man is not alone in whatever is going on with him.
Boyd asks, "Who did this to you?" And he doesn't get an answer. The tied-up man asks Boyd if he's from the town. Asks if he went to the tree. And the man says, sometimes you end up stuck, and that's when they get you. He doesn't really specify as to who gets you.
Mm-hmm.
Boyd is looking around, looking rather crazy, trying to find enemies, you know, like he's basically in cop mode, looking around the corners to see if there's anything there.
Well, in his case, military mode.
Right. The man says that he has a kind face, and it's been a long time since he's seen kindness. He asks Boyd his name, and we learn that this man's name is Martin.
Martin, yep.
Boyd...
Martin also told us that he used to think the town was the worst part until he went through the tree.
Boyd tries to get the chains off him and realizes that he's a Marine. And what branch of the service was Boyd in? Was he also a Marine?
I know Abby was a Marine.
Okay.
I'm not sure what Boyd was. I feel like it was something else because of him specifically saying Abby, she was a Marine.
Right.
I'm not positive.
Okay.
But
Martin says if Boyd won't help him, just kill him. And I'm kind of like, isn't he trying to help you? What are you talking about? We cut to the diner, where Donna quiets the place down by cocking a shotgun. Kenny is behind her, where he will be a lot of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Also present is Julie, Christy, her fiance, the one just off the bus, Bacta, which is the bus driver.
Bus driver, yeah.
The still nameless bus guy that was mean to Elgin.
Yeah, plaid shirt guy who's no longer wearing a plaid shirt. I do know his name now. Still hasn't been named in the episode.
Is it in Internet Movie
Database? It's not in the credits. It's not in IMDb, but I found it on social media.
Okay.
His name is Randall.
Randall.
And it has not been canonized within the show, but within a promo video that From put out on social media, the actor, which is AJ Simmons.
Right. Who is in the opening credits now.
He was, doing an interview, and it said at the bottom, AJ Simmons, Randall.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll go with that for this episode until they contradict us in the next one. We also have the older woman who was dancing in the rain.
Dancing in the rain. Still don't know a name for her.
And a bunch of other random people.
Yes.
Some people who
mostly
are
it was people from the bus.
Yeah.
I think.
But there were some town people there.
I think the only townspeople was Donna, Kenny, Christy, Julie, and Matthias. Which
is that the other guy with the gun?
Yeah, the other guy with the gun. He's from Colony House. Donna brought him in the van when she first came up earlier in the day.
Yep.
And he was pretty much just a extra until this season, but he's had lines in these last 2 episodes, so I think just like Bicycle Girl, he's going to be more important. like more of a character now that has lines.
Right.
And I find it interesting because actually Matthias is the actor's name.
Oh, really? That's
so
cool.
I'm thinking he was just an extra, and then when they decided to give him lines, they decided to just use his name.
That's funny. The bus driver, Bacta, tells Donna that she hasn't done anything yet that she can't walk away from, acting like a hostage negotiator.
Yeah.
And I should point out that after being a bare presence in the last episode, she's like she's around, but she's not really like...
Right.
She doesn't get much to do.
Yeah.
She's mostly just in the background. Other than this one scene where she's trying to calm Donna down.
You can tell that she's like thinking a lot. And she's still trying to figure this out and still trying to figure out what she should believe. And
at least
what
now she's open-minded.
do. And I think really what made her start listening is Donna was like, hey, the tree.
Right.
And finally, I'm like, why didn't you bring this up like last episode when you were trying to convince people to go in the diner? How about you tell them then that you know what's happened to them?
Because Donna is not a cool presence.
Right.
She's kind of a hothead, like I mentioned before. Donna ends up telling Horsley that they have no idea what's out there. Kenny asks another guy about Christy, and the guy, this was Matthias, I'm pretty sure.
Matthias, yeah.
Matthias, okay. The guy Matthias tells her that she's in the back with the girl from the bus, and Kenny kind of nods in reaction. He knows what that means.
Yeah.
Donna instructs everyone to sit, and she more calmly tells the crowd that they aren't the enemy. The enemy is out there. Dancing in the Rain lady says that that's an odd thing to say.
Yeah.
Donna says, let's start with the tree you saw. And Bacta asks, how do you know about the tree?
Yeah.
And Donna says, everyone sees a tree.
Yeah.
And credits.
And credits.
Que sera, sera.
And the opening credits still are unchanged, so I guess we're sticking with that.
We do see some new names in the credits.
New names, right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still pretty much like
Same
the same
imagery.
visual sequence.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, Victor and Tabitha find a metal trailer that Victor occasionally hides in.
It's a big box truck.
Box truck? Okay. I wasn't really quite sure what that was. They have to be quiet because there's no talisman. They hear a monster scream, and we have a rather odd, abrupt cut back to the diner where we see Christy and her fiance. It was a really weird cut.
Yeah, there's so many different locations in this episode, more so than usual, because people are so segmented off that we have a lot of strange cuts jumping back and forth between all of them.
Usually that's where you would have an establishing shot like of the diner or something. And then you would see...
They didn't have time for any of that.
Right. It's not something that the average person would notice, but, you know, being a student of film and television, that is something that I would notice, and I'm sure you would too.
Yeah. And so, yeah, all we got so far with Victor and Tabitha is they're on the truck. We got, like, this little peek around, and we heard that it's his. He comes here sometimes. He tells her that much during that scene. And we'll get more of that as the episode progresses.
Right. So her fiance back at the diner doesn't quite get it. She doesn't understand that Christy didn't just, like, run off, that she, you know, ended up in this situation. She doesn't understand the situation yet. From her perspective, Christy has been missing for 6 months. She says that. And she thinks that, Christy joined a cult of some kind.
Yeah. And we got her name.
We did.
During this scene. Her name is Mary.
Mary. Okay, I missed that.
And according to the same social media post where that actress was interviewed, her full name is Marielle. Marielle.
Okay.
Marielle. But Christy calls her in the scene Mary.
Gotcha. All right. We cut to Jim, Tom, and one of the people from the bus who eventually gets named as Brick. They're still trapped in the collapsed house. Brick is still unconscious, but he soon wakes up and starts freaking out, and Jim and Tom try to keep him calm. Tom manages to get free enough to grab Brick's Brick's foot.
He has a brick house.
Right. Brick's...
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So he goes and grabs his foot.
Yeah.
And assures them that they'll get out of that situation. They just have to keep quiet because there's things that they don't want them to know.
Which they don't really explain to him, but I feel like off screen they explain it to him because the next time we see him, he seems to have a little more idea what's going on.
Right.
But yeah, I found it really interesting that we got his name here after not getting it all last season.
And it's irrelevant, basically.
It's irrelevant. And I feel like there's some Big Bad Wolf connection to make here.
Okay.
Whether it's just a joke or some
Oh,
theory. I'm not sure.
I think I see where you're going with
Yeah,
this.
so his name's Brick.
Okay.
The house like fell down on him.
Right, a wooden house.
There's something Big Bad Wolf, Little Red Riding Hood to say about that. I just don't know exactly what to say.
So
there's something there.
You know there's a joke, you just can't quite make it.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know the feeling. Okay, so we cut to Boyd once again, who's trying to get Martin down.
Yeah.
Martin says even if they somehow manage to get him down, he doesn't think he's gonna make it to town because he's quite emaciated.
Right, and Boyd tells him about the talismans.
Right.
Like, he's presenting this whole new thing to this guy.
Mm-hmm. And he's using the talisman to break the chains, or try to anyway.
Oh, I thought he was just using a rock he found on the ground.
You might be right, but I thought he was he showed him the talisman and then was trying to use it.
I wouldn't do that if it was me.
I mean, I agree with you.
Because that thing's gold. You don't want to risk breaking it.
No, absolutely not. Martin keeps insisting that they don't have time. Boyd hears music. He goes to investigate, and Martin says he needs to be gone before the music stops.
And Martin tells him that the things that come out at night are just the tip of the spear.
That's scary.
Like, you don't know anything yet, dude.
Right.
Which is,
Yes, that's true. We don't know
anything yet. And I told you I had I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. This is where that fits in.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. So, Martin tells Boyd, who I don't know if he's just making small talk at this point, but he tells Boyd he's from a small town called Millbrook.
Okay.
So that led me down researching what is Millbrook.
All right.
Okay. When I searched for Millbrook, I came up with one thing. And I'm sure there's other Millbrooks, but I feel like this is something.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this could be a big detail.
Okay.
I'm taking a sip of water.
All right. You do that. Because I think we're going to be on a little bit of a tangent.
Okay. So what I found, and this is all new to me, and it was like 5 minutes of research, so I don't have like super detailed stuff here. But... and I haven't seen anybody talking about Millbrook at all. Anybody in all of the forums, no mention of let's look up and see what Millbrook is.
I'm assuming most of the fandom is not as obsessive as you are.
It felt important for them to be like, where are you from? I'm from Millbrook.
Right.
I don't know. It feels like everything everyone says is important, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I found that Millbrook is a small village in Dutchess County, New York, and that it was first founded in the 1860s.
Okay.
Which is a date that means something to us in this fandom, particularly 1864 we're looking for.
Right.
So definitely there were Civil War soldiers from this area.
Interesting.
Okay. Now, what Millbrook is most famous for is in the 1960s, there's a house there that started off as a 1860s plantation house. Civil War soldier died. The house got passed on, and eventually it became where Timothy Leary had his psychedelic drug commune in the 1960s.
Okay.
Have you heard of Timothy Leary?
I have vaguely heard of him.
Okay, so Timothy Leary, he was a psychologist. I think it was Harvard that him and Richard Alpert worked for. They were fired because of some experiment. They ended up going to this house in Millbrook, and again, this is all super quick notes, so if I get any of this wrong, I do apologize. It's real quick notes. But they made this big commune, and it was this big deal. This is kind of where LSD was born.
Okay.
Which is literally named after their movement, which I didn't write that down, what it was called, what the LSD stood for. But it was this whole, they had this whole, way of life that they were using drugs to enlighten them, and they started running these experiments there, and they were having these, retreats there, and all sorts of, famous rich people would come and spend time there at this house, and it was a big party, which reminds me a lot of Colony House.
Okay.
Which is this old colonial house that's being used as a party house, where a lot of drugs are happening.
Okay.
Not necessarily LSD, but...
right.
But I feel a comparison, right? And
I don't think LSD is as popular of a drug these days.
No, and I don't think they have it.
Right.
It's not like they can just grow it as easy as what they're doing.
Right.
But yeah, I felt this connection between that house and Colony House. And I didn't dig too deep into Timothy Leary's story, but, he was arrested from this house and, went on to his story. And that's when this house ended. It was for 5 years in the 60s. And this is the birthplace of the psychedelic 60s. It all started in this house in Millbrook and this commune.
Okay.
And this is basically the start of the whole hippie era.
All right.
And Also, I found it interesting. I've recognized that his partner's name, Richard Alpert, who was another psychologist and guru that worked with him on this. Anybody who's a fan of Lost recognizes the name Richard Alpert, because that's a character from Lost.
Oh, okay.
It's an important character from Lost. And
is it the same Richard Alpert?
Well, no. Richard Alpert on Lost is a fictional character.
Right. So it's not like they're saying it's this guy's partner.
No. But could they have named that character after this guy? Because maybe those creators have some interest in this story?
I mean, I guess so.
So the Lost character, just for a quick, reference of who that character is within Lost, he's a slave from the 1860s. And he gained immortality by doing Jacob's bidding and became a recruiter for the island.
Okay.
Okay, so he's kind of timeless. And he's seen throughout the series interacting with different characters at different points in their lives. And I found that interesting to run into, this real life person who happens to have the same name as some Lost character.
Well, that's not a coincidence.
And then this is what this town is famous for, that we're just so happen to told that's where Martin is from.
Interesting. So what are you saying the connection is?
I mean, it might be nothing. It might be super stretch. It might be they have some, interest in this story and just threw that in there for no particular reason. Like they just, that's on their mind. It could be that the Calling House philosophy just branched from this story. Or it could be more deeper. It could actually be something within the story. They could be telling us that Martin is from this house. Like maybe Martin was one of these drug people. It could be so far as a hint that we're all part of, some drug experiment. It could be everybody here is being drugged and tested and hallucinating because of this. Like maybe they're tied up somewhere and this is all some drug-induced coma dream.
Well, that's the funny thing is that that actually kind of ties into what I think of these scenes with Boyd. Like, I don't think that we can take what we see here at face value. Now, something clearly happens to Boyd here, but I'm not sure that what we saw is what actually happened.
Okay.
Like, I think it was either some kind of mind fuck from whoever's in control of all this thing, the spirits or whatever is going on here, or it could be some kind of dream or hallucination. Something clearly happens to him. I'm just not sure that what happens to him is what we see.
Right. And I feel like I took it a little more at face value and feel like when he leaves and, he's in the ruins, maybe he was in the past, even hundreds of years in the past, when this used to be a room. Or maybe not even physically there, but maybe that's what he was getting a vision of, is when this place was real. Or maybe it's some different dimension where this is the reality of what it looks like in one dimension, but in the other dimension, he's in the ruins. I don't know. I feel like there's definitely something. Right. Something happening.
It would be nice to get some kind of explanation on that.
But that doesn't happen just yet, so.
Yes.
So yeah, anyways, Millbrook. The guy mentioned he's from Millbrook, and I feel like knowing about Millbrook, New York is notable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the music box, like you said, they're coming. And he says, there's things in the forest we weren't meant to see. So what is it that we, as a species, I'm assuming he meant, aren't meant to see?
He could also be speaking in smaller terms and just referring to the people in the town.
That they didn't want us to see.
Yeah.
I don't know. I took it as more grand. Like there's something extra human going on here.
Interesting.
Whether it's paranormal or extraterrestrial or I don't know.
I definitely think there's probably a bunch of different things happening here. I don't think it's all part.
Or is it all some human built experiment?
Maybe. That would be interesting. I'm not sure that I would appreciate that because I've seen like stories like that already. I want something new here. I don't want the same old stuff that we've already seen thousands of times, which is why I don't want to see vampires like some of the fans are speculating. Yeah. I want to see something completely different.
Right.
All right. So
yeah, Boyd picked up the music box. He stares past the ballerina and sees his own reflection. I saw some people speculating, mirrors are important. We have seen mirrors in a few scenes. I don't know what to think of that.
I don't know what it means, but it was certainly a nice, lovely little shot.
Yeah.
For sure. It was definitely cinematic. Okay, so we got to the diner. Julia was looking out the window to try and see what's going on at her house.
At her house.
Former house,
Yep.
because that's no longer going to be her house unless they rebuild it.
I don't think they're going to. No. I
All
do
right.
hope they find the talisman in that wreckage, though. That'd
Yes.
be a waste to lose one.
Yes, absolutely. Kenny tells her not to look out the window, that the more attention she draws to the house, the more likely the creatures will be to find Jim.
Yeah.
Julie yells that she can't sit there and do nothing, and I'm like, and I realize she's being irrational here, but I'm also kind of wondering, well, what exactly do you expect to do from here?
Yeah.
But she's being emotional and irrational, and
I mean, from her perspective,
it makes sense.
she's potentially lost both of her parents this
Right.
day.
Yeah.
So I understand her being kind of freaked out.
No, she definitely deserves to be freaked out. Kenny says that that's exactly what she's going to do. He tells her to sit down and offers her tea. And asks her what her favorite book is. She says, "You're just trying to distract me." And he says, "Maybe, but you should answer the question anyway." All right, so I want to talk about Kenny a little bit here.
Okay. Let's talk about Kenny.
Yes. So he's quietly become one of my favorite characters, I think. He's just a fundamentally decent kind of guy.
He's definitely a decent guy.
He's really bad.
At being sheriff?
Yes, at being sheriff. This episode definitely bears it out. But he's also, like, he tries to be a comfort here, but I don't think he's particularly great at that either. But his heart is in the right place.
Absolutely.
And his heart is in the right place, but he's kind of awkward about all these things. And he's bad at his job. And that I kind of relate to him because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because of his awkwardness, because of his good-naturedness.
Yeah. And
his trying to be a comfort and kind of not really doing a great job. And he offers her tea, which is something that he'll offer someone else, and he'll also get rejected.
And you know that comes from his mother.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what they do in their family. They drink tea.
Yeah.
Tea solves all ills.
Right. So yeah, he's quietly become one of my favorite characters. I especially like how he deals with the whole fiance being in the picture suddenly thing.
Yeah.
Like, he could react to this very differently.
Right.
So
people were speculating that they felt some possible romantic chemistry here between Kenny and Julie.
You know, I thought that too a little bit. Like, I saw the chemistry there, but at the same time, they're very different ages.
Are they? How old do you think Kenny is?
Well, no, I think he's probably in his 20s, and Julie is probably late teens.
Yeah.
16, 17.
Right.
Maybe,
but how
maybe
old
even
do you
18.
think he is?
I don't know. I was thinking 20-something.
Well, like 22 or like 28?
Probably towards, he's probably younger.
Yeah.
On the younger side.
I think he's younger, and I remember he was saying how, you know, that lamp was in his truck because it was in his dorm room at college.
Mm.
So he possibly just graduated from college. Maybe he's 21.
Right. And the funny thing is, this isn't the first time I thought that there might be some kind of romantic thing going on, because I thought last season she confronts Jade about being a asshole or something, like after talking to her dad. I'm thinking, like, the way she was acting, I was wondering, you have a little crush going on here?
To who, Jade?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought that was a possibility last season.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think I've heard that before, but I don't know if I just heard that from you or somebody else.
No, I think this is the first time I've said it personally.
But yeah, there's maybe, you know, Kenny's keeping his options open.
I mean, if I were him, I would, like, you know, like the teen girls these days are telling me that I have to have a whole stable of girls. So, I mean, that's what you gotta do. Like,
well, he's thinking he's lost his chances with Christy now.
Yeah.
So
until you know, like, the fiance
I'm
gets
still
mauled.
rooting for Kenny and Christy.
Yes.
I'm rooting for them. Sorry.
I mean, it's
sorry, Mary.
It's on the back burner, but, you know, Mary could die a quick death. I mean, she could be dead tomorrow for all we know.
Yeah, in that conversation between Mary and Christy, you know, they were talking about how she was gone 6 months. I'm wondering if Mary moved on during that time.
Yeah, that hasn't come up yet.
Yeah, and
we didn't see most of that conversation.
Mary's wearing a ring.
Could
now,
still
is this an engagement ring with Christy? Is she still wearing it? Or has she married somebody else or engaged to somebody else?
In 6 months' time?
But she thinks that Christy left her.
Right.
Would you be still wearing the ring?
I mean, that wouldn't be the only assumption that you would have if somebody goes missing. But
right.
Maybe she left. Maybe she's dead somewhere.
Right, but
maybe she's...
I don't know.
Got
I feel like there's something to learn there.
Yeah, probably.
And
I don't know. Would you?
really upset when they come out of the back room.
Yes.
Which, we didn't get that far yet, but like they looked both upset. And I'm wondering if there's more to that conversation we didn't hear yet.
I'm sure there is. But yeah, we see Dancing in the Rain lady pour herself a coffee and a second one, and then she hands it to Donna, which I thought was really kind of interesting.
And she says, just when I thought life was out of surprises.
And she looks down at the gun and just kind of moves on.
Yeah, and so I think she's on board now. She's fully believing the story. She's here. And yeah, I'm very curious about this character. She is part of the main cast now, so I don't think she's dying quickly. We still don't know her name.
Right.
I feel like we're going to get information on her soon. We have to.
Yeah, I mean, there's still in episode 3,
there's
through 10.
speculation that she actually knows or is related to somebody in the town.
Interesting.
Which, I mean, there's speculation of literally everything at this point, but...
Yeah, I don't see that the episode itself hints at that at all, but yeah, you never know. Okay, so Donna drinks the coffee and she eyes some of the people from the bus, including, what's the guy's name now?
Randall.
Randall, okay. Randall, and he's talking to a few others. He's having an intense conversation. I think at this point they're kind of planning.
Yeah, you can tell at this point that something's going to go down.
Right. We cut to we cut to a shot of the bus. Oh, okay.
No, we cut to a shot of the bar.
Right, the bar, with some people arriving.
2 passengers from the bus arrive at the bar, which is abandoned.
Which is what my notes said. I just read it completely wrong.
Well, we get to the bus at some point. There's a lot going on in this episode. Right.
Yeah, they're a youngish couple.
Yeah, and the girl, she actually had lines I noticed in the last episode. She's the one that was resisting when, what's the bus driver's name? Bacta wanted everyone to get on the bus, and she was like, there's people trapped down here.
Right.
So she was definitely present during the last scene, or last episode, and we just get a real quick shot of them here. We'll get more from them a little bit later, but I find it interesting that her line right now is she feels like they walked into an acid trip, which I felt interesting after my notes about Millbrook, a couple paragraphs up on my notes here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we cut to Fatima, who is outside trying to get people that ran off to get into a building. She's trying to warn them that, hey, you guys are going to die if you stay out here.
Right. Remember the last time we saw her and Ellis is she went off chasing the people who ran. Ellis went off chasing her.
Ellis is with her near the sheriff's office, which is the post office. And he tells her that they need to get inside. But Fatima doesn't want to lead the people on the bus out there to die.
Yeah.
She tries to warn anyone that can hear her that there's dangers out there. When Ellis sees monsters approaching, Ellis is like, okay, no, screw this. We're getting inside now.
Yeah, they lock themselves in the station just as a pair of monsters is like right on their tail. And it was a cowboy monster.
Yes.
And then a blonde woman.
Okay, so the guy tells them that the monsters basically are like, you're spoiling all the fun, before Ellis closes the shade. Fatima goes to another window, tries to warn people out there about the monsters, while Ellis is frantically trying to get her to stop.
Yeah, and so we see out the window, there's a couple from the bus, and we've got waitress monster, and I think the other one might have been cheerleader monster. It was a girl.
Okay.
And the guy from the bus is literally shaking hands with waitress monster.
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
It was like quite an image.
Yeah, you're gonna die, and that monster, that waitress is smiling, and it's really weird.
And it's like so hard to watch because from their perspective, these are just people in the town.
Right. She sees people being, we just talked about that. So she's yelling on the window and pounding on the window, trying to get their attention. They're not noticing at all. All the while, Ellis is trying to tell her, hey, stop, calm down. You can't do anything. This is happening. They're going to die.
And then we hear the screams.
Right. And then...
and we know that the waitress and the cheerleader ate them.
Right. Fatima tries to run for another door, and Ellis slams it. Now, mind you, his arm is broken at this point.
Yeah.
He slams
from jumping out the window of Colony House.
Right. So he's in another situation similar to that situation where he got his arm broken in the first place, and he slams into a wall with his broken arm to try to, get Fatima to stop and to calm down. Okay, so...
And one thing I noticed about Waitress Monster, looking at her from across the street through the window, you could see that her outfit was dirty. Like, it was in the caves. And it's notable because I think that whenever we see the monsters up close, when they are trying to trick people, like, not only do they have this pretty human face, but their clothes appear clean and neat. Like it's that part of their perception veil or whatever that they're using.
Interesting.
But from looking at her across the street like that, she was very dirty looking.
Perhaps it wasn't the perception veil that you were just talking about wasn't working as well from a distance.
Right. That's what I was questioning.
Maybe they were putting it on for you up close, but not bothering.
They're putting all their energy into projecting themselves to the couple in front of them.
All right. So Fatima goes to the back door again, or to the front door, and pulls off the sheet and starts swearing at the two monsters that are still staring in. And the monsters say, "Hey, you'll feel better if you come outside." And somehow I doubt that. I don't think that's going to be the case.
No, I don't think so.
And Fatima basically starts breaking down while Alice
she has a
comforts
total
her.
breakdown, and she says, "I can't do this anymore."
Meanwhile, Jim, Tom, and Brick are under the house. They hear the monsters, and Brick continues to freak.
Yeah.
And he starts bleeding from the mouth.
He's losing it. He hears the monsters. At this point, I'm pretty sure they told him what's going on, and he has every reason to believe them.
He specifically asks, "Is that one of the monsters?" Like, basically.
And he won't shut up.
Right.
And like you said, he started bleeding, coughing up blood. Tom's trying to quiet him, but you can tell this isn't a good situation.
No. Okay, so back to the diner.
Mm-hmm.
The belligerent guy, whose name is what again? Randall. Okay. He tries to go for the door, and Kenny stops him. He tries to tell him that they need to help the people outside, and he's asking him, "What's wrong with you guys? You have guns." And Donna tells him, like, guns are not going to help. He wants to go for the front door, and Donna calmly tries to tell him that if he does that, he's putting everyone at risk. Oh, actually, before that, he manages to get Kenny's gun and holds him hostage.
He holds Kenny at gunpoint.
While Donna holds a gun on him, as well as Matthias. And this is another example of why he's really not a very good sheriff at this point, because he so easily gets punked with that gun. It's just way too easy to get his gun.
Yeah.
So
because he had it just sitting on his hip instead of like out.
Right.
Donna and Matthias are holding guns on people, and he's just like do.
Right. So I'm thinking maybe he needs some more training from Boyd. That's for sure. He asked specifically. Randall asked how the tree got to the road, and he thinks that the town.
He thinks that the town set it up as a trap because they're trying to kidnap them or whatever. Which, I mean, I don't blame him.
Right.
That seems like it could have happened.
I don't really blame any of these people for being skeptical and not necessarily buying what's going on.
And he was like, they're like, "Well, can't you hear what's going on outside?" He's like, "Yeah, I hear it, but it's pretty convenient. I can't see anything." Like, they think it's all just some act to try and trick them.
I think this episode kind of justifies Donna's approach to things.
By tying people up at night?
Yeah, because you just don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
And, this situation is very tense. The scene in particular is very tense, and which is why I kind of love this episode, because the tension is really well done. Okay, so Randall threatens to blow Kenny's brains out.
Yeah.
Donna says he's going to have to do it. And after that, Donna is going to shoot him in the head. Yeah,
because she's not going to let him open the door.
Right. Because that means they're all going to die if he lets that happen. If she lets that happen. They hear a knock at the door, which I kind of think is one of the monsters.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's pretty convenient. Kenny takes advantage of the distraction to hit the man and get his gun back.
Yep.
And that's, hey, Kenny, did all right there.
Yeah. And now right about here, I got super annoyed with Julie.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's saying, a lot of people give the whole Matthews family a lot of grief. And I haven't really seen a lot of it. I haven't had a problem with Julie. I'm okay with how dramatic she's been acting.
She's a teenage girl.
Right. But at this point, listen, most of the room's full of bus passengers. Donna's trying to convince them. Kenny is less convincingly trying to convince him. At no point does Julie say, "Listen, they're telling the truth. You're not being held prisoner. This is dangerous. They're going to kill you if you open the door." She doesn't speak up, Julie. Back them up here as a resident of this town that this is real and you need to pay attention.
Right. We do get a couple of shots of her looking horrified, but not otherwise being useful.
She has not backed them up at all. She's too busy, playing the victim here. Which, step it up, Julie, and be helpful.
All right. I hope Julie takes that to heart.
And also in this particular scene at the diner, we saw Dancing in the Rain handing out tea or coffee to Bacta and some other people. And I'm calling it right now. She's going to take over Sarah's job at the diner, helping Mrs. Liu.
That would be nice.
Yep, I'm positive she's going to be Mrs. Liu's new waitress.
Wonder what role Sarah's going to play if she ever gets back to town.
I mean, spending the night in the box.
Yeah, she's on the shit list for sure, but I don't know. Does her actions in the season finale help her case at all? Do you think?
Saving Boyd?
Yeah.
I mean, no one's gonna know that.
If you can even argue that's what she did.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure that.
I don't know.
Right. Okay. So.
And is she still gonna want to try to kill Ethan?
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we'll get there. Never mind. Okay. So we cut to Boyd, who's trying to get Martin down still. Martin asks him if you ever wonder if Abby was right.
Yeah. So he got one shackle loose, and he started on the second hand, and something flips right here. And yeah, he says, do you ever wonder if Abby was right? What if it's all just a dream?
That sort of fits into what you were saying earlier about the possible drug connection.
Yeah, maybe. And I'm questioning here. Okay, first of all, it's the same reaction Boyd has. How the hell do you know about Abby and what she said?
That's one of the reasons why I think this is just a giant mindfuck.
So
I don't think this is... Well,
so I see two different possibilities here. One is that he was just screwing with Boyd the whole time. Earlier, it's oh, what's your name? Are you from the town?
Right.
I don't know who you are. But now, well, I know who you are. So, was all of that just some kind of pretense and just playing? Or I thought maybe, what's about to take over.
Which is, yeah, something
what's about to take over Martin. Did it start right here, actually?
I think it's
was
quite
it
possible.
That whatever is inside him, just take him over, and that's who is asking him about Abby, not necessarily the Martin that we met earlier.
I think it's a pretty strong possibility. He finishes with, do you ever wonder if it was all just a dream? And Martin starts to fall over with pain. Boyd helps him up, and he notices things moving in Martin's arms.
Yeah.
Which is something that I'm pretty sure we saw in Sarah.
Okay, that's a topic that people have been asking about. I don't think Sarah has the worms.
Okay.
I don't.
Well, we saw something moving.
I rewatched the Kill the Boy scene.
Okay.
20 times, trying to look at it. I don't feel like those were the worms populating in her arm. I just feel like that was the manifestation of that stigmata.
Okay.
But there definitely are people who think that was the worms.
Right.
That she has it too.
Okay, so the music stops. Martin attacks Boyd, wounding him in the arm somehow, and tells him that his burden is now Boyd's.
Specifically, he said, my blood is your blood now.
Okay, I heard
which is super
burden.
creepy.
Right. And Martin seemingly dies.
Yeah, he collapses. I think he's dead.
If any of this is even
Boyd
real.
really didn't even check him to see if he had a pulse.
Right.
And yeah, he was just what the fuck just happened?
Right.
Why am I bleeding? And what the hell are you infected with that now I have?
Right. Boyd ends up opening a door, and suddenly the building that he was just in no longer exists. It's like some kind of wreckage
it's
or something.
Ruins of what looks like the same building. The archways are still there, and the torches, the torch holders are still there. Now, I think what happened is I think Martin died. I think he was released because he passed it on. I think he passed on whatever evil virus, whatever the heck worm thing, to Boyd by scratching him, and that released him so he could die.
Interesting.
I think that's what caused him to die. Because, why did he die? So I think
I think he was pretty emaciated, so it wouldn't have taken much.
But he wanted Boyd to kill him.
Yeah.
And the way I'm seeing it is, I want you to kill me so that I die before passing this on, and whatever this is dies with me.
Right.
Instead, when the music box ran out, it somehow signified that they're here. I think they, in this case, is whatever's inside him, not necessarily somebody else coming. They're here. And I don't think it's literally just worms. I think it's something is taking him over at this point.
I'm wondering if I wouldn't say he would change himself because that's
I
not
had
possible.
questioned that. Like, did
Like
he
maybe
tie
a
himself?
townsperson did it.
Did he tie himself up so he couldn't hurt people? But then we saw like all these other people were tied up too. So I don't really know what to think about all that.
Right.
But I feel like maybe it was his mission to pass this on to somebody. And because he did, now he's released. And release is death. Like, that's what he wants.
Well, that makes Sheriff Boyd a liability now.
Yeah, something bad is happening with Boyd. And
yeah.
I don't like it. It's scary. I hope there's some cure other than, you know, dying after you give it to somebody else.
Right. Right.
So Boyd grabbed a torch off the wall right before going through the door. And that is notable because if this is all just an illusion, how does he have a torch that he brought with him through the doorway?
That's fair enough.
Like, he has a torch.
Right. He still has it when the building disappears itself.
And he has whatever's going on inside him now.
Okay.
Now, also, though, remember, he does have the spider bites.
Right.
So could it be that the spider bites is actually what gave him this?
Possibly. Maybe he already had the worms and this was just some kind of elaborate...
like, illustration to him?
Yeah. Don't know.
Yeah, like I said before, I felt like, oh, maybe time travel, maybe he did travel to super far in the past before this place was ruins, and now he opened the door and was transported back to the present time, or a different dimension of where this building is a reality or isn't a reality. Either way, I don't think after seeing that it's got anything to do with the lighthouse.
Yeah, we didn't get any kinda...
Yeah. So you had speculated that the well room was in the lighthouse.
Yes.
Wherever these ruins are, they're close to town.
Mm-hmm.
The lighthouse was days away. Well, not days, but far. Miles.
Right.
Like they had walked a full day, spent the night, and then were dragged for who knows how long to get to the lighthouse.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's probably
and
not
now the ruins, you know, he's quickly able to go from here to where he goes next, and we know that is someplace relatively close.
Right. It's basically in town.
Yeah.
It's somewhere that Victor can get to pretty easily. Right. All right, so we're back at the diner. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, before that.
Okay.
All right, so he's stumbling along. He's not doing very well. We see the dog. That we've seen several times. Yeah. The dog approaches him and is all friendly. Yeah. Dog runs off, and Boyd stands to his feet, presumably to go after it, though we don't see that happen. All right, so back at the diner, Kenny is in the back. Christy's fiancé walks past.
And looks very upset.
Yes. Kenny offers tea, and she doesn't seem particularly grateful by that offer. She just kind of looks at him and then, like, goes back into the main room.
Like, who are you?
Right. So, strike two for Kenny trying to, help morale in the situation. Christy comes out. She's clearly emotional, and he asks what he's doing. And Kenny says that his mother tells him that the food cures all ills. So, tea.
Yeah.
They ask each other how they're doing, rather awkwardly. Yeah. Basically, Kenny gets confirmation subtly.
Yeah,
that this
in not so many words. She confirms to him, yep, that's her.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even need to use words. Like,
right.
we're in full understanding here.
That is a very good indication of just how close these two characters are. That they're able to, like, not even say it. And then
they can have a whole conversation without words. Like you and I do.
Yes, absolutely.
Like talking about Quantum Leap without spoiling Adam, who's in the room.
Right.
Or like that episode where, and then, okay.
Okay, so...
and Christy tells Kenny she'd be very impressed if he whipped out a cheese platter. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. They need a good cheese platter.
Who doesn't need a good cheese platter? In fact, why don't we have one of those right now?
I don't have any cheese.
Oh, okay.
There is cheese upstairs. We don't have any cheese down here in front of us. Maybe we'll bring out cheese for the next time.
All right, sounds good.
We'll add that to the list. Get your peaches and your cheese platter.
All right.
And a cup of tea.
Okay, so, Kenny tells her that she should probably get back out to the main room.
Yeah.
That her fiancé is going to need her.
Mm-hmm.
And, God, what a swell guy this is.
Yeah.
He's ignoring his own feelings for the sake of others.
And you can tell neither of them know what to say to each other. They're both fully aware of how fucked up their situation is right now.
No. Yeah, how do you react and what
do you say? Because
basically
she had just told him, like, yeah, I'm into you and maybe. And yeah.
Yeah, it's an awkward situation. I don't know what you would say in a situation like this. I doubt I will ever face a situation like this. Definitely, hopefully not like exactly like this.
And she gives him some kind of like weird half hug on his back as she walks by.
It almost kind of looks like she stumbles into him. Like, I didn't know what was going on there exactly.
I think it was, she's like, I don't know how to act now.
Right. And you would probably act the same if you were in that situation. So we're back at the with the couple at Tom's bar.
Yep.
They hear screams.
And we learn their names. Kelly and Brian. Are these characters' names, which I would normally say, if they're going to tell us their names.
Right.
But
they seem to be naming all the characters that are going to die.
We just met Brick, so.
Right. They're not naming the people that like are actually going to continue on with the show. They're naming the people that die.
Do you think Brian and Kelly die?
Well, that's an interesting question.
It is
because
an interesting
we don't
question.
know.
Okay, so let's play through the scene.
Okay, all right. So yeah, they hear the screams. He tries to calm her down when they hear a knock at the door. People asking for help, claiming to be from the bus.
Yeah, a man and a woman.
Yep.
They say they were on the bus. We took a detour.
And
it sounds like...
It sounds legit. It doesn't sound like the monsters.
It sounds like something the monsters would do.
It absolutely does,
like,
but at the same time...
Remember Grandma Monster?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm your grandma. Let me in. The dogs are going crazy. Adam must be home.
Oh, good.
If you hear dogs barking, those are our lovely puppies upstairs.
All right. So she tells him, don't open the door.
Right.
But he says, we have to help them.
Yeah.
And so he goes to the door, opens the door, and that's it. We don't see him for the rest of the episode.
He unlocks the door, and it opens, and we're left with that.
So I was wondering, are we meant to assume they died here?
I think we are meant to not know.
Right. So it's something that we'll
remember,
discover.
Tom brought this up in this very bar before talking to Jade.
Mm-hmm.
Schrodinger's cat.
Right.
This couple is now
point, they either both
Schrodinger's cat.
Or dead.
Yeah, we don't know. Either there's 4 bus passengers hanging out in the bar together, or these 2 are dead, killed by the other 2, which were monsters.
Right. So we'll probably stumble upon them in the next episode. Either.
My guess is we won't.
You don't think we're going to even find out?
I don't think they're going to tell us in the next episode.
Really?
I think it's going to be at least a couple episodes before we get back to this, before anybody ventures to the bar. And it's very 50-50. Like, it's very open book like that, right? It totally could have been a couple from the bus. Totally could have been a pair of monsters.
Right.
And I think it's very intentional that they left it like that, based on that whole Schrodinger's cat discussion that happened here. You know, and this is where this is happening, is in the bar.
The creators definitely do enjoy screwing with us in this manner.
I'm just ever so slightly leaning to they're alive, and those were passengers. And I think if that's the case, it's going to be a few episodes before we hear about them again. We're going to forget about them. And then suddenly, what the heck were their names? Kelly and Brian are going to appear and, like, save somebody else.
Right.
Because they're alive and they've been hiding for a couple days.
Right.
That's what I think is going to happen.
Interesting. We will definitely see. It's either that or we're going to go to that bar and discover them, like, mutilated and dead.
Yeah. Or they could really screw with us and never bring them up again and leave them totally open. And then, like, in season 6, we can find out they're still alive.
Oh, let's go to that bar. Oops. They've just been sitting there this entire time drinking all the alcohol.
Oh.
All right, so we cut to the Smiley guy monster.
Smiley.
He's heading towards the bus. And this moment got a lot of discussion. I was actually surprised that they had the same reaction I did. He goes onto the bus, sits in the seat, and seems fascinated by the steering wheel.
Yeah, he's like pretending to drive the bus.
It's interesting because this is one of the few times that we see the monsters have, like...
doing something?
Right.
Other than trying to eat somebody?
Right, trying to kill somebody. And he's really fascinated by this steering wheel. And I'm kind of curious if this is... Well, some people speculated. There was detailed discussions on this, actually, and I was part of it, that this is part of his past. Like, maybe he was a bus driver in his past, and he's kind of reliving that, or maybe he's just interested by this human concept.
Exactly. So I see it, it could be 2 different ways. And I don't know which way I'm leaning. Either it's some kind of reminiscence of human life, right?
Yeah.
And he remembers being a human, and he's just thinking about that.
Right.
Or it's like a child, pretending to be something they've never been. And in this case, a monster thinking about being human. But I never have been and never will be.
Right.
And either way, it's a clue. We just don't know what the clue is.
And I'm hoping this is something that we explore further. But he ends up turning the key. And, oh, yeah, by the way, he can get on the bus, play with the steering wheel, and turn a key. So I don't know what's going on up there, but
it sounds like our house is gonna implode.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope we're not gonna end up in a sinkhole and then. But anyway, so yeah, he has the ability to do these things. So I'm curious why the monsters don't do other things like screw around with the town in other ways other than just killing people. Like they can steal cattle. They can, I don't know. They can do a bunch of things.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what their motivations are.
Right.
What drives them other than blood.
Mutilating and killing people.
So yeah, he turns on the lights.
Yeah.
He flips a switch, turns on the lights on the bus, and the couple gasp and duck down like they were peeking up to see what's going on. And I really think he had no idea there was anybody on the bus.
I'm sure.
He came on the bus to play, and it was very unfortunate for this couple.
Yes,
that
it's an elderly couple. It's an elderly couple. He tells them that they picked a bad spot.
They were really relieved to see this smiling young man, and they're like, "Oh, we've heard the screaming."
If I saw that smile, I would not be relieved. That's for darn sure. Not that smile. That's the creepiest smile I've ever seen in my life. And you mentioned the fact that that's not CGI. That's his actual smile.
Yeah, the actor had mentioned that. I forget his name. Jamie somebody?
He morphs into a monster and kills them.
Jamie McGuire, I think is his name.
Jamie McGuire?
Okay, so we get this really very brief shot of his monster form as he goes to attack them, and then they cut away. We hear the screams. Did you get a good look at that monster face? Did you see a screenshot of it? Or
well, I from what I saw, it looked like the monsters that were in the basement.
Yeah, it did, but it's like horrific. Like that face is nightmare inducing.
Well, that smile that he has is nightmare inducing as it is.
Of all the close-ups we've gotten, that's the one that really got me. And yeah, it's very similar to the basement monster. But I think it's worse so than like Grandma Monster or like the ones that ate Frank. Like it's just like ridiculously super scary. Like 3 rows of razor teeth and like...
It's not something that I want to see, that's for sure.
And you know what? I kind of felt like looking at the monster face is it kind of worm-like?
I would have to look at it again.
Could it be that the worms are monster larvae?
Interesting. They end up giving birth to these creatures somehow?
Right.
Well, that's not very good for Boyd.
No.
Okay, so speaking of Boyd, we cut to him. Oh, one more thing.
No, Boyd.
Okay.
Do you watch the series with captions turned on?
No, but I will start to do so at your suggestion.
Well, I'm asking you specifically about this scene.
Okay.
Have you seen people talking about this scene?
No.
With the dog?
Nope.
Okay. Did you hear, not listening with captions, because I watch everything with captions, did you hear Boyd call the dog something?
I do know that he shouted something. I didn't quite catch it.
Did you think he was naming the dog?
Probably.
You thought that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Boyd's chasing the dog. The closed captioning accredits it that Boyd says, "Gus, slow down."
Okay.
And there's, a big debate on this on all the forums as well. Whether is that just a closed captioning error, or was that actually in the script?
I mean, it could be, but what would be the significance of that? Is he naming the dog, or did he have a dog named Gus at one point?
The question is, if that's what it was, how does he know this dog's name?
Right.
Is there more history with this dog that we will see?
Mm-hmm.
Or people are suggesting because he's infected with these worms, he has knowledge of things that he didn't before?
Maybe, but also he's been in this town for a while.
Right.
We know for a fact that he encountered this dog in the past.
Right.
So maybe he gave him a name already.
I mean, the dog is wearing a collar.
Mm-hmm.
It's very possible that collar says Gus.
Okay.
It's also very possible he was just gasping for breath, and whoever was typing the closed captions thought that's what he said. Now, closed captioning, they don't use a script. It's not the creators of the show that do it. It's always an outside company. Closed captioning always has tons of errors.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that scene, I think.
Yeah, I went back and watched it, and I couldn't tell what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I want to know if you had noticed it as having not seen the captions.
Unfortunately, I don't quite recall enough.
Yeah.
To be able to tell you.
If it's just a closed captioning issue, then
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. But if he called that dog Gus, there's a story to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the dog's name on the tags? When did he see it? Or did he just know it? I don't know. Either way, I'm calling the dog Gus from now on.
All right, the dog's name is Gus. That's official. It might be official in the show, or it could just be a closed captioning error.
Yeah.
But either
way, dog is Gus now.
All right, so Boyd in the scene follows the dog, and then we hear the monsters, and Boyd tries to hide from them.
Yeah, we hear the monsters screeching. And remember, we were told the monsters haven't screeched since the talisman came.
Mm.
And they've been screeching a lot lately.
Yeah.
Things have changing. Since the 2 cars came, something happened.
And, they somehow don't notice Boyd, and I think that's very much by design.
So he puts out the torch, and he hides behind this tree that's like a tenth of his size. He shouldn't be able to hide.
Right.
Milkman and librarian monsters pass him on one side. On the other side, we've got the bride, the nurse, and the dude with the scarf. Some people think he's a lighthouse keeper, by the way. That
Okay.
He's the fat dude with the scarf.
Okay.
And he's got like this hat on, and people think that he looks like a old-timey lighthouse.
All right.
Lighthouse. What's it called? I just said it. Keeper?
Keeper, okay.
Lighthouse keeper.
Yep.
So yeah, he's got 5 monsters around him. And, right, they don't see him.
Mm.
So this is another area of discussion. And also, one of the shots of the camera made all the monsters look like really blurry and out of focus.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the discussion people are having. Again, I don't really know where I fall on this discussion, but the points here that people are making are, maybe, is he losing his ability to see them?
Yeah,
like,
I was
not
actually
see them anymore?
I was actually kind of curious
because
about
of whatever is inflicting him, or maybe he's moving through to a different plane of existence than what they live in.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he's losing his sight altogether because of either the Parkinson's or the spider bites or the worms.
Right. There's multiple different things going on with this character at this point.
Or was it just like a weird camera angle that we saw the monsters really blurry for a second?
Right. It could mean something or nothing at the same time. And those are the options.
Along with that, are they ignoring him because he's inflicted with whatever he's inflicted with?
I actually think that's the case.
Or was he just really lucky that they didn't see him?
I don't think it's luck. I think from the way that he is, the tree does not hide him at all.
Yeah.
They walk really close to him. They should notice him. They don't. And I think that's very much by design. I think they're intentionally walking past him at this point. Probably because whatever's going on with him, he's now connected to it. So I think there's a possibility that there are certain people that the powers that be that are going on within the town don't want that.
Okay.
And that they're untouchable.
Like Sarah.
Right. And that they're not going to kill him no matter what. And I think Boyd is probably on that list. If he wasn't before, he definitely is now.
Because he's the carrier of something.
Right. So, and I think Jim might be one of those people, and I'll get to why later on.
Because he didn't die?
Yes. And I can't explain why he isn't dead otherwise, but we'll get there.
Okay.
All right, so we have a scene with Victor and Tabitha.
In the truck. They talk about the boy in white a little bit.
Yes. Victor mentions that he was a friend. He was gone for a while, and he recently came back.
Yeah, which is really all we've heard over and over about this story.
Right. They talk about Victor's mom, and we don't exactly know what happened to her, but we can certainly guess.
Yeah, so she asked him how he got here. Of course, he doesn't want to talk about it. They start eating some stale chocolate chip cookies, and I wouldn't eat those. How long have they been there?
Right. Since the 1970s.
She was apprehensive to partake in the eating of the cookies, but she ended up taking one and smelling it. She's like, I don't want to be rude to this guy, but...
Right.
But yeah, she asked about where the stuff came from, and he says some of it was already here, some of it I got from people that have come, and some of it, she gets him to say, was his mom's, that he came here with his mom.
And I actually really like the scene. It's a very nice, quiet scene.
Yeah, it's the most information we've gotten.
Right.
Which is still no information. I always kind of just assumed he had come with both of his parents.
Yeah.
No mention of dad here.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, that doesn't mean his dad wasn't there.
Yeah.
I was kind of always on the soapbox that the dude in the picture was his dad.
I was under that impression as well.
Yeah. And we do know we're going to get to see that guy, at least in one of Jade's visions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw anything about that. It was a clip in one of the season trailers.
Okay.
That there's a gentleman who's older, who has aged, but you can clearly tell it's the same person as in the picture, and he's holding the journal up with all of the symbols in it.
Yeah.
You know, the journal Victor
Yeah,
found.
yeah, yeah.
That is the guy who was holding it in the picture.
Yeah.
And so yeah, Jade sees him at the very least. If he's not really there, which he probably isn't really there, but.
Yeah, we'll certainly see on that one.
So we're gonna hear about that guy in some capacity.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I would figure that since they made the point of showing us a picture of him,
yeah, right,
he would come back into play.
But yeah,
somehow.
I thought it was Victor's dad. Maybe not. Maybe it was just some dude there the same time as him.
Probably.
But there's definitely some connection, right, between Jade and Victor at this point.
Right.
That they've been seeing the same things. And
right.
Jade's specifically been seeing things relating to when Victor was young.
I'm kind of curious.
Like the marionette.
If the person controlling, or not controlling, but the person that, well, not the person.
The force?
The entity that is in Ethan is the same entity that's,
that is in Ethan?
Well, not Ethan. All right.
This is so hard to talk about.
Right. So, the same force that is at work with Ethan that lets him know everything that he knows, and Victor, and Sarah, and now Elgin are the same thing.
Do you think they're all the same?
I'm not sure. I think maybe there are different forces at work with all four.
There's definitely different stuff going on.
Mm.
And I think maybe some of them are getting insights from multiple places.
Mm.
Like I said earlier, I definitely think whatever told Sarah to kill the boy is the same force that was controlling the weather and the house falling and all of that.
Right.
Trying to kill Ethan. But also the boy in white has appeared to Sarah.
Yeah, and I don't know where the boy in white factors in either.
I definitely think he's trying to help them. Ethan. I don't think he's trying to kill Ethan, so I don't think he's who's telling Sarah to kill the boy.
Right.
I think he's on the side of good. Mm-hmm. We know he helped Victor survive as a child.
Mm-hmm. And he actually helped Victor in episode 7. Yeah. He appeared there.
Right.
And sent him into
every time he's appeared, he's given helpful advice that we've seen.
I mean, he kind of leads Boyd into a bad situation.
Yeah, but he leads him away from being eaten by a monster right in that moment.
All right, fair enough.
Like, he had to go somewhere.
Right. And it's possible that the boy in white had no idea where
Boyd
it
was just like, this will get you out of this spot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we hear a knocking outside. We think it might be one of the monsters. But
yeah, which is really bad news because they don't have a talisman.
Right.
If they've been found, they're monster food.
Right. And that's really unfortunate.
And the door opens.
And it turns out to be Boyd.
It's Boyd and his talisman.
They are all shocked to see each other. They hear screaming, which turns out to be Elgin. And it amuses me to no end that Elgin is running into the 3 characters that have no idea about
exactly. Okay, so Elgin is running from the milkman and his friends. And Boyd isn't sure if he should trust Elgin. He has no idea who this kid is. But the kid's running.
Right.
He's obviously human. Because we've heard the monsters do not ever run.
Right.
So maybe you should trust him?
Right.
Enough to know he's human and you should save him?
I mean, he's a little high-strung at this point. He's had some experiences, so he's maybe a little bit off.
But yeah, you got to remember, all 3 of these characters have been gone since before the radio signal.
Right.
They don't even know that. Victor's been gone ever since Colony House attack.
We didn't even see him for a couple episodes.
Yeah, he doesn't even know about trying to make a radio signal.
Right.
They don't know about the house collapsing at this point. They definitely don't know about the bus.
Right.
So everybody's like really confused. And they also don't know that the others don't know what's going on.
Right.
Like Boyd's looking at Tabitha and Victor like, what? And they're just like, what?
Because all 3 of these characters have been missing from most of the last couple of episodes' events. Okay, so once they realize that, Elgin is running from monsters, Boyd's like, oh, they change their tune.
Yeah,
they're like, come on,
they get him in just in time. They close the door. They hang up the talisman. Boyd still doesn't trust Elgin. He's holding a gun on him, says, who are you? And he's like, I was on the bus. Like, that's supposed to explain it, but of course...
None of these characters were involved in any of that,
yeah,
so they don't know.
Of course they're like, what bus?
Right.
What are you talking about?
All right, so we cut to Tom, Jim, and Brick.
Yep.
Still trying to keep Brick calm.
Yeah, and he's clearly in a lot of pain.
Yeah. He's in pain.
Jim tries telling him to hold on because he can get pancakes in the morning.
Right, and they share a moment of levity but it's short-lived. He soon dies.
He screams out bloody murder and
I'm guessing
dies.
He dies from his injuries?
Yeah, like he was like buckets of blood pouring out of his mouth. He had internal bleeding.
Is that like normal to like just suddenly start bleeding like that? Because I mean, I guess...
Yeah, I think he had something inside he had internal bleeding, like his organs were shut down.
Right. Okay, so he's dead.
He's dead. Tom's still holding onto his foot.
And then soon after that, a monster runs from is
like,
somewhere in the building,
falls down from the ceiling,
and basically takes
out Tom.
Now, I didn't initially like this scene because it's kind of hard to tell watching these scenes where they are in relation to each other.
Yeah.
So it seems like if the monster saw Tom, it also should have saw Jim at the same time, and Jim should be dead.
Okay, yeah. So Jim was, we know, a little bit further away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they could see each other.
Right. No, they definitely could.
Jim and Tom had been talking the whole time. Tom was definitely closer to Brick because he could touch him.
Right.
Like they were in eyesight and in reaching sight, from hand to foot. And Jim was kind of like around the corner.
Mm.
And at the same time, I was like, how could that have happened? Like, I mean, obviously we find out soon Jim's not dead.
Right.
And Adam was like, oh, well, it's because Jim was quiet. Like, they didn't know how many voices were in here because Brick was being so loud, and because they went to him, that's who the monster went to and heard. And because Tom was literally right there touching him, they found Tom, but Jim was quiet. They didn't know there was another human there.
I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Like, they didn't know to look for anybody else.
Also, initially, my problem
with again, the monsters know everything.
Right.
So why do they not know where people are?
Yeah. The other thing is that, like, Jim, when I first was watching the scene, it didn't seem like Jim was reacting at all. Like, he hears people being murdered, and he just seems to be stone-faced. But when I watch the scene again, he's definitely reacting emotionally.
Yeah, and he's being super quiet because he's trying to hide.
And we've already seen, like, in the last episode specifically, that he's a pretty cool customer. He had a building on top of him, and he was basically telling the guys, hey, look, leave us.
Right.
Like, if you stay here, you're all going to die.
Yeah.
So, you need to leave and then come back in the morning and then help us.
Yeah.
That's the only chance that we got. So, I mean, it's possible that's just Jim's character. The other possibility for why the monster doesn't see him, I think, is maybe the monster does see him, but he's untouchable for some reason.
Okay.
He's like one of those untouchable characters.
I don't see that, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that that's to be the case, but I'm just speculating at this point that maybe Jim is just one of those people that they do not want to kill for whatever reason.
Okay.
All right, so, yeah, so
we go back to the diner.
Yes, the diner.
Julie hears screaming coming from the direction of the house, and of course she thinks it's her dad being eaten.
And basically, she's trying to get to the door, but she's stopped by Donna.
Yep, Donna kind of tackles her to the ground and is trying to comfort her. Dancing in the Rain also comes over and helps comfort her.
We see Christy and her fiance hug. We see various reactions.
Yeah, like it's an emotional moment. Like even everybody who maybe wasn't believing this before heard screams from across town.
Right.
Now the screams are like right outside. They're hearing somebody be eaten alive.
Okay, so in the trailer, Boyd tends to his wounds, and Victor says he doesn't trust Elgin.
Yeah, Victor doesn't trust Elgin. Elgin's asleep on Victor's couch. Tabitha's writing or drawing something, and they didn't show us what she was doing. I found that notable. Like, she was doing something with a pen. So is she starting to draw pictures now, or is she writing a letter to somebody? I'm curious what the heck she was doing.
Maybe she's just doodling because she's bored at this point. But Boyd says that they're still alive. Now, here's a question I have. Victor says that he doesn't trust Elgin.
Right.
Does that mean that we should not trust Elgin?
I don't think so.
No. You think that's... Because he's in the know about things, so he would...
You mean Victor?
Victor. Victor says he doesn't trust Elgin.
Victor doesn't even know what he knows, though.
Right.
He's very confused. He's like, I only remember things because I drew pictures of him.
So we shouldn't take that to mean that we, the audience, should also not be trusting Elgin.
I am not going to jump to that, but I don't know. It's out there, right? It's a thought out there that maybe he's not trustworthy.
Well, the other question is, can we trust Victor?
Can we trust Victor? Right. A lot of people think Victor's like the one behind all of this. Because remember, he won't tell us what how he got here, what's going on. He won't tell anybody anything.
Right.
But I think it's just because he's scared.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything malicious going on with Victor. Now we get a really good look at the room during this scene. And I actually took some pictures of my TV. So there's a map above the sleeping Elgin.
Okay.
A very crude map that we saw Victor had drawn of like the town. So that's interesting. There's all kinds of stuff in the room. I noticed a toy boat again.
Oh, okay. More stuff similar to what was in his room.
There was fishing gear hanging around all over the place. Yeah, all kinds of things that he's been collecting, and like just the fact that these are the things that Victor bought to keep maybe have some significance. And then there were 3 drawings that were on the wall.
And I don't recognize any of them.
Well, I'm pretty sure one of them is the guy, I don't remember his name, Jasmine's boyfriend.
Okay.
You know, the one that opened the window at Colony House?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be him.
Okay.
And the other 2, my best guess is that it's Mr. and Mrs. Liu.
Okay, yeah.
There's
I see that.
a bald gentleman wearing a blue jacket or sweater, which is what Mr. Liu was wearing.
Okay.
And the other one looks like it could be an Asian woman. I'm not positive that that's
I definitely
who it's
see that.
depicting. But if that's her, I think she's going to die.
That would be really sad.
Because if her picture's hanging up with pictures of 2 characters who have died in Victor's little truck, I fear for her that she's going to get it soon.
That would be really sad.
And I think that picture right there is foreshadowing of that.
Especially since we have Elizabeth Moy promoting our podcast. We don't want her to die.
She's great. So I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But that's what I see out of that.
Victor asked Boyd if he found what he was looking for, and
on his journey that he took.
And Boyd does not answer the question.
Yeah, he avoids the question completely and instead asks Victor what he's drawing.
And Victor says he's drawing things that he's seen, which I guess he's seen it in person, and then his hallucinations or whatever that is, his dreams, his images.
Yeah, he says he draws things that he's seen because even if he forgets,
the pictures
will remember. And that tells me, yes, we should pay attention to Victor's drawings. I mean, we knew that already, but he draws everything, right? And everything that's happened over the last several decades are in Victor's pictures. The answers are there.
Right.
And he's like, I don't even remember this shit, but the pictures are there. I drew it, which means I saw it at some point in my life.
Right. Victor hangs a drawing that he was just drawing.
And this is a drawing of the ventriloquist dummy.
Oh, okay.
It's a ventriloquist dummy, and it scared him when he was in the caves. Remember, that's when he freaked out, and he told Tabitha, I'm scared. I think he's got some personal connection to the dummy.
Okay.
Maybe it belonged to someone he knows, or someone who he was traveling with. Definitely meant something to him when he saw the dummy in the caves. And I can't wait for Jade to see this picture because Jade's seen the dummy now.
Right.
Jade and Victor need to talk. Like that conversation's so overdue.
Yeah.
Because if the two of them communicate, we're going to get answers.
Yeah, that's at least 5 episodes overdue. That's been how long Jade has been trying to talk to Victor now. Victor ends up saying that the sun is coming up.
Yep.
And we cut to the diner. The radio plays a song. Do you happen to know the song?
Who by Fire was the name of the song, but I did not look that song up.
Okay, so you don't know any significance behind it?
I don't know the song, but that was the song, Who by Fire.
Okay. Julie wakes up and realizes that the sun is up and runs out of the diner to the house. Like, the entire people that were in there all follow her.
Yep.
She calls for her dad. They end up seeing the corpse of Tom.
Tom's body's been dragged out to the yard, and he's, of course, missing all of his internal organs.
So Tom is very, very dead.
Tom is very, very dead. It has been debunked. Anybody who thought he was in on things, that he's a mole, he is gone.
It's kind of interesting that, and I'm sure they do this very much intentionally, but in the last episode, we finally got some characterization for him.
Right.
And now he's dead.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's interesting. So she ends up calling for her dad, and eventually Jim is able to say Julie's name loud enough for them
Yeah.
to hear her. And they realize, oh, yay, he's alive.
He's alive. And Donna rallies the troops to start digging him out, which is really funny. I thought that they're just like, okay, dig. Like last night you were all like, no, you got to be really slow, go careful.
Right.
And now like 20 people are working on it.
Right. Bacta, meanwhile, wants nothing to do with this. She goes to the bus.
Yeah.
She goes onto the bus and sees a trail of blood. And right then and there, that's the end of it for me. I'm roping out of this. She looks up. She sees a corpse in the aisleway. Again, I'm out of there. But no, she has to continue to investigate. Even though she already sees a dead body on the bus, she walks and eventually is horrified to see the 2 mutilated corpses of the older couple. And now things are very real for her.
Yeah, she realizes, oh, shit. Like, they are telling me the truth the whole time.
Right.
If I was out here, I would have died.
So her attitude is going to be very different going forward.
Yep.
Okay, so we cut to Boyd, who opens the trailer. Tabitha learns that her house collapsed.
Yeah, so Elgin's telling that they're asking him about the bus. He's like, yeah, there's 20 to 25 people on the bus, according to Elgin. And he's like, oh yeah, we were doing this, and the lady with the guns, Donna, was trying to get us to go in the diner, but when the house collapsed, and Tabitha's like, what house collapsed? It's the one next to the diner, of course. How do you not know about the house that collapsed?
Right.
And Tabitha, of course, realizes that's her house. She freaks out.
And she seems to run off in the wrong direction.
I mean, she's like, which way? And Boyd was like, yeah, that way. And she's running off into the woods. I think she overreacted a little bit. Like, maybe you should have asked more questions.
Right.
Like, was anybody in the house?
Right.
Like, this kid probably has some answers for you. I mean, if she did get the answers, it would have given her reason to behave the way she did.
Yes.
But based on the knowledge she had, I think she overreacted.
I agree with that.
Because as far as she would have known, nobody was in the house. Like, no one was in the house when she fell through.
Right. Yeah, I mean, she was basically
Who's supposed to be in the house is you.
Right. I mean, basically, they kind of know. I mean, she was there for some of the collapse. She knows that happened.
She knows the basement collapsed in,
right.
But like the house fell down.
Right. But yeah, as far as she knows, Ethan is still at County House.
I mean, that's I guess the point. She doesn't know. She's worried about her kids and her husband.
I mean, I guess that's
she's in a hurry to get back and see what's going on. But
a normal
I don't know.
reaction.
Maybe ask some more questions of the kid who was actually there.
Right. Boyd starts to notice in his arm that there's worms crawling
The worms
around.
are moving under the skin.
He turns to see Victor looking at him.
Victor definitely notices.
Yeah.
And Victor knows something.
Right. He tells Victor to close the trailer, and then they all go after Tabitha.
Yeah, they go off into the woods.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the episode.
And as they're walking, we see the side of the truck.
And what is on the side of the truck?
Did you not notice the truck?
I did not.
The truck gives us an answer, finally, to one of our questions.
And what would that be?
Where did the peaches come from?
Is it a peach truck?
It is a canned foods truck.
Oh, okay.
It said something canned foods, and I had the something in my notes, but my spell check changed the word to Claire's. It started with a CL, and I was like, it wasn't Claire's. I don't know what it said, because my notes changed it. But it said something farms canned goods.
Interesting.
And I'm positive that was a truck full of canned peaches, and that's how Victor has been eating peaches for decades. The walls of the truck were lined with peach labels from the cans.
Okay, I didn't notice any of
Yeah,
this.
there were peach labels.
That's why I have you.
There were peach labels on the truck. I'm pretty sure he's using backs of the labels for some of his drawings.
Mm-hmm.
We knew he said the peaches have always been there, so this truck was definitely a shipment of peaches. And, one thing Boyd had said, I think, in the last scene in the truck was, he's like, yeah, I passed by this truck like a dozen times, and he was impressed that he didn't know Victor had done all this. Maybe you're not a great scout, Boyd.
Right.
If you've passed by this truck a dozen times, this canned foods truck, and never went inside to investigate to see if there were supplies in it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he did a long time ago, and this was before Victor doctored it up.
Victor's been here for decades.
Okay, so never mind.
Victor had to have been doing this his whole life.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, so... Oh, okay, so one thought I had. The rule for the town is if you cause somebody's death, then you get the box, right?
If your negligence causes their death.
One can make the argument that Jim and Tabitha both deserve the box. Because they are responsible, partly at least, for that house collapsing, and for Tom's death, and for Brick's death. So, playing devil's advocate there.
How do you find Jim responsible for that?
I mean, he was partly responsible for them digging the hole in the first place.
I don't know if I agree with that. It was all Tabitha's baby.
Okay. So
but also, I don't feel like it was neglect on her part. It was just circumstance. Like with Frank, it was literally like you were told to nail the windows shut and you didn't.
Right. Okay. So that specific negligence. But also at the same time, okay, so I was watching episode 1 again, as I said, and I happened to see that scene. The mother there shows absolutely zero urgency about getting her child away from that window. She's just trying to calmly talk her into not opening the window.
She froze. I think she was so scared that she froze and couldn't move. Yeah, people gave her criticisms like, as a mother, wouldn't you have just jumped in front of your child and tried to stop her from opening the window?
Yeah.
But, you know, if that happened, we wouldn't have got what we needed from this scene.
Right, I got you. All right.
Like, they needed to die in order to tell us what this town's about. That was their entire existence, was to die for us.
Wow, that's really sad. So they were kind of like Jesus? They died for us? Okay, so do you have any other thoughts about this episode?
A couple of notes. Let me see if we touched on these. I don't even know. Oh, the dog. Gus. Whether that's his name or not. So I made the note that in the past, when Boyd met the dog, that's how he got lost and didn't come back to town. But that's what led him to the talisman. If he hadn't chased that dog and gotten lost, he wouldn't have found the talisman. So
basically, we've more or less confirmed multiple times now that the dog is on the side of good.
The dog is helpful. I say always trust the dog and follow the dog because the dog's leading him places. The dog led him to the truck. The dog led him to the talisman. Now, we did see a scene where the dog was like really vicious towards Victor and Ethan. And not sure what that was all about.
I mean, there maybe have been a reason for it, at least.
Yeah, I think, though, the dogs are helpful to our people, and we should always pay attention to the dogs.
If you see a cat, however, don't mess with that, because you never know what a cat is going to do.
I don't think they have cats.
No, not that we've seen.
Just goats and chickens and dogs. And they mentioned cows.
Right. It's interesting that there's things in this town to help keep them alive.
Now, when we first, it was when Jade was first, you know, he thought he was in an escape room still, and he was like, well, you got one problem here. Where are you getting milk from and eggs? And I think it was Kenny he was talking to at the diner at the time, who said, well, we don't know where the chickens and cows come from. But then when we actually meet the animals, it's chickens and goats.
Interesting.
So do they have cows? Because I haven't seen a cow, but Kenny seemed to think they were getting their
Can you milk a goat?
Absolutely. Goat's milk is a thing.
Yeah.
So maybe Kenny thinks they have cows, but I haven't seen one.
Right. Maybe he just wants to think they have cows, so he doesn't realize he's drinking goat milk.
Yeah, I don't know. And the other thing we brought this up already was, does Sarah have the worms too?
Right.
And you think yes?
I think it's an open question. I think it's possible. I'd have to rewatch the same scene that you were watching to see what I see.
Yeah.
Could be an effects issue. Maybe they just didn't fully form the effects for that yet. Or maybe it's something completely different. I
lean towards no, that was not intended to be the same thing. But I could be wrong.
Yep.
It's definitely a topic up for discussion. The only other note I had here is when and where to watch this show. Because people are really confused about that. So I'm just going to take 30 seconds.
Go for it.
This show is in the U.S. I'm not going to comment on other countries because a lot of people are asking questions about other countries, and I don't have those answers. But here in the U.S., it's an MGM Plus show. It was made by Epix. Epix was rebranded MGM Plus. It's still the same company. They just changed their name. You can watch it on MGM Plus. Season 1 is available through Amazon Prime. It's available for free on MGM. If you go into the MGM app, you don't have to have an account to watch season 1. They're showing it for free. I don't know if that's permanent or just temporary. But to watch season 2, you have to subscribe to MGM Plus. You can either do that standalone through MGM Plus app. You can download you can subscribe to it like through your cable provider as an add-on, the MGM Plus network. Or you can subscribe to it as a channel through Amazon Prime and probably some other places too. There's so many people who are really confused and think it was an Amazon show and now that Amazon put it behind a paywall. That's not the case. MGM's the creator of the show. Pay them for their content. I see so many people talking about, well, how can we pirate this illegally? Just stop. If you love this show, If you want them to keep making it,
I mean,
support them.
That's the thing is like, this show's existence is because of people paying for the content.
Right. So pay for the stuff you like.
Mm.
And that's just my PSA on that. And the show airs Sundays at 9 p.m. on their live channel.
Okay.
But you can stream it through MGM Plus starting at midnight Eastern time, Saturday night, which is when Sunday starts. Which means if you live anywhere west of the East Coast, you can watch it earlier on Saturday night.
Right. All right.
And
Sounds good.
That's that.
Now, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming you've already watched the 2 episodes of this series so far.
This season.
Yep. Yes. So I'm assuming you're already in the know. But it could be helpful to you guys to maybe spread the word on that.
Help spread the word, because people are really confused. And we need all the eyes we can get on this show. And we need subscribers to MGM Plus to do that, because that's what's going to make them keep making the show.
And if they cancel this show after 2 seasons with no answers of any kind, I'm going to be mad.
There's speculation that season 3 has been ordered, but I have not seen an official announcement from MGM yet.
And once again, the writer's strike might
possibly be something. So we'll keep our eyes on that news. And we'll be back next week talking about episode 3. I can't wait for it.
Yes, it's going to be exciting. Okay, so we would like to hear from you. If you have any comments, please comment. Any theories, we would love to hear it. If you post it somewhere that we can see it, like either on our channel, or you can get in touch with us directly, we'll definitely give you a shout out and give your theories an airing, whether you're completely off base or not. Stacie can be reached at?
I can be reached on Twitter at TVN Coupon Talk.
All right, if you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can join my Corbin Productions Facebook page. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can buy something from the Corbin Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a coffee, which is a new way to support content creators such as myself. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to our channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Corbin Productions, signing off.